Hey, it's Angie D. Lee, your intimacy guru, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about 7 myths of intimacy. I really wanted to discuss the myths of intimacy for this reason because a lot of times we have so many preconceived notions and assumptions and expectations about relationships, even when we've been in a relationship for a really long time. But there's so many myths out there when it comes to intimacy. So I want to kind of debunk those a little bit for you. So make sure you subscribe to my channel real quick and make sure those notifications are on because I want to make sure that you are becoming notified when I upload a new video. So the myths of intimacy. Let's just jump right into it. We've talked about this actually in a few of my previous videos, but the first myth is that intimacy requires sex. So we know that's not true, right? Because intimacy comes in so many different forms, right? We've talked about emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, intellectual. There's also physical or sexual intimacy. So sex is not necessarily a requirement. And the reason why it's not because many times we're not always in a place to have sex, and we may not always be in that particular mood either, but we do crave some type of closeness still with our partner. So it doesn't always require that we're having sex to become intimate. We may require it in different ways. So I don't want us to just assume that it's always about sex when it comes to intimacy. I think this is one of those things that I think you all know already. But for those that are just joining for the first time and haven't maybe watched my previous videos or not really familiar with the different levels of intimacy, sex is not required to have an intimate relationship, right? And then another myth. Okay, so obviously I'm talking mainly to the long-term committed couples, married couples, but still I think that this is something to bring up too. The second myth, meaning that in order to be intimate with someone, it can only be like a certain person or that one true love, okay? And I say this too for people who are in relationships or marriage for the second time, the third time, maybe even the fourth time. Sometimes we think when we're in a committed relationship or a marriage that that's the only person that we'll ever experience true love with. And that's not necessarily true. In the event, unfortunately, like if someone passes away, you get a divorce, that doesn't mean that your life is over and that you'll never find a person that you can really connect with intimately. And so to think that there's only one person out there for you, that would actually be kind of tragic. Really sad. It makes it seem like there's no other life after a significant loss or like a breakup or divorce or even death. So there's this myth that there's only like this one true love as it pertains to intimacy, and that's not necessarily the truth. A lot of times too, we feel that when we're in intimate relationships, we just think that forever is guaranteed. This kind of goes along with the last myth, okay? Forever is guaranteed. And like nothing in life is guaranteed. So we already know that's a myth in itself. A lot of times too, I think people feel that if you're in an intimate relationship, that you'll never fight or that you have to fight. So either one, two extremes, right? So sometimes people feel like, okay, if we love each other, we have this intimate relationship, we'll never have really big disagreements. And that's not true. It just kind of all depends on how you handle those disagreements. But disagreements are healthy, okay? That's actually what happens over time after two people are together for a while and you continue to merge your lives together. That's not an easy task. That's no walk in the park. So trying to stay connected with one person for a significant amount of time requires a lot of adjustments, and it can be very uncomfortable. And sometimes there are very difficult conversations that have to be had that may become arguments, but it just depends on how you handle it. So the myth that you'll never argue is definitely an immature view. And then also the view that you will have to fight so hard, for your relationship all the time. can also be a myth in itself. Now, do relationships require some work and some consistency and all of those things I mentioned earlier about just working through some of the tough times? Yes. But if your relationship is an ongoing struggle day in and day out, that's something to definitely take a look at. That's not necessarily required to have intimacy. You don't have to fight your way through a relationship every single day to know that it's an intimate relationship. So that's definitely a myth as well. A lot of times, too, people feel that sexual chemistry is needed in order to have an intimate relationship. And that's not necessarily true as well, because even though we want to be attracted to our partners, of course, that's typically how we kind of come together in the first place. There's some sort of attraction there. But sometimes sexual chemistry it's not there. It doesn't necessarily mean that the intimacy cannot grow. And actually, through intimacy, the sexual chemistry can grow with time. So to just assume that, okay, this is how I am sexually and this is how they are, and we just kind of like automatically it's fireworks. So that means that we have a strong, intimate relationship. That's not necessarily true, too, because we know that two people can really enjoy having sex and have that sexual chemistry with each other, but there's no intimacy. There's no conversations. There's no connectedness. There's no, I can be my total self around you. I can, just kind of bare my soul. A lot of times people will actually bare their bodies before they bare their souls. So sexual chemistry is not necessarily needed in an intimate relationship. But I will say it's ideal if there is some sexual chemistry there. Let's see. Every relationship has to have a certain amount of intimacy. That's also another myth. So, like, sometimes people feel like, oh, okay, well, since we're not doing this and we're not connecting this way and this is not happening, and more than likely because you're seeing another couple and you're basing your relationship off of what they're doing, or you've read something, you think that that's how your relationship is supposed to be. That's not necessarily true. It really all depends on the two people that are in the relationship, because those two people can be fine with a certain level of intimacy and it works for them. But then another couple may need something a little bit more, a little bit deeper. It just really depends on the couple. So that's something that you always want to identify within yourself and in your partner, and making sure that you all are compatible. But don't base your level of intimacy in your relationship based off of someone else's relationship as well. And I would say the last one is, a lot of times people feel that because there is an intimate relationship, sex should just be easy. The relationship should just be easy. The communication should just be easy. And honestly, at the beginning, everything is easy. There's nothing there that typically makes it hard, because it's the excitement, it's the newness, it's the constant wondering about that person is what brings about the excitement and the ease of the relationship. But as you move into more time with your partner, there are things that are going to come up. There are going to be situations and experiences that you all are going to face together that's going to test you. It's going to try you. And those situations aren't going to always be easy. So that's where the work comes in. But I just want to throw that out there in regards to some of the myths of intimacy, because I think a lot of times, even in long-term relationships, sometimes we've been in relationships for a while and we're feeling like, what's the problem? Relationships should be like a piece of cake. It should be so easy because we love each other. And we also know that it's not just about love. It's not just about we're physically attracted to each other. It's not just about we have things in common. Eventually, we have to go a little deeper with one another. And honestly, that's what intimacy is. It's a deeper, truer connection beyond the surface level. So think about that. I would love to hear your thoughts about some of the other myths of intimacy that you would like to share, or that you've heard of, or that you've experienced yourself, but with growth and maturity, you've learned that intimacy is a little bit more than just that. So yes, definitely check in with me. Let me know your thoughts about some of the myths of intimacy, and I will see you later.